back to A Boring Revolution, your number one news source for everything in regards to the Boring Company. Back to you with a cracking episode today. We're looking at a new project. So this project has kind of been in the works now for almost 6 months. There's been a lot of talking going on between the local mayor's office in Fort Lauderdale and Miami and the Boring Company, obviously Elon Musk and Steve Davis. This project has materialized from those conversations. It looks like an excellent project for the Boring Company. Not too big, not too small. Nice, simple build. And I am very excited about this project. I think this has got a lot of great use cases. So it's going to be called the Las Olas Loop. Not too sure about that name, but it may grow on me. It sounds a bit weird saying the same word essentially twice in the same kind of name, but I guess that's what it's called. It's looking like it may start construction in 2022. It may start operating maybe the following year. Who knows? Maybe quicker than that if they get started early. So, as you know, this project based in Florida is going to be a key project, make or break project for the Boring Company. They need to get this right. The same was true of the Las Vegas Loop Project. They managed to get most of that right. Obviously, there's a few tiny little things they need to make right with that project, but overall, it's 99% perfection, as it were. So, before we start talking about the key facts about the Las Olas Loop, the information regarding this project is fairly thin on the ground. I don't have everything, all the information. One Redlick has put in a Freedom of Information request. Unfortunately, it was turned down. Hopefully, at some point, he may be able to put in another Freedom of Information request and get hold of plans and potential costings and potential routes and things like that. So, that will come in a future video. But what we know from today is kind of fairly basic, really. But I'm just going to kind of outline what we know. I have added this project as well to the quarterly report, which is obviously free to download for everyone, so you can have a look at that. Again, there are a lot of assumptions in there. It will change over time, and we will make it much more detailed and concise. So we're based in Fort Lauderdale in Florida, which is essentially in Miami. I assume it's like northern Miami. So it runs along Las Olas Boulevard to the beachfront. The boulevard looks like quite a nice community. Lots of little restaurants and food outlets and small businesses, which is always great to see. There's quite a few high-rise buildings in and around here. Looks quite an affluent area. Not a lot of wiggle room really for placing machines and building kind of launch pits and reception shafts. However, we don't have the plans, so we don't know where they intend to put that, but we have a good idea where they're going to potentially put those particular structures. So approximate route length of around 2.8 miles, so that's from end to end. Bear in mind this is a twin bore tunnel, so in total you're looking at about 5.6 miles. In the media they're saying 3 miles for the route, but I'm struggling to get to that number, so we're going to go for 2.8 on this one. Again, that might all change. What is the approximate cost of this project? Again, it's a bit of guesswork here. So it's $66 million, which might sound like a lot, but really for a scheme of this size in a city this large, that is, pretty decent. A wad of money there, and you're getting a lot for that. So that's pretty damn good. So it may come down from that number. It remains to be seen. It remains to be seen what the stations will look like and how many bays they will use. I suspect they'll need around 26, maybe up to 30 bays, maybe more than that, maybe up to 40 bays. Depends how they're going to do this, but it's going to be an interesting one. So each station will probably have 14, 16 bays. Depends how many stations they have. They might have 3 stations, 4 stations. They're saying several stops, but I'm not sure how practical that is in an area this dense. Twin bore tunnels, 4.12 meters external diameter. That includes the annular as well. So you're looking in and around that kind of ballpark. The internal dimensions of the tunnel is obviously at least 450 mil less than that particular number. It's looking like a one-way ticket will cost around $5. I think that's a very reasonable amount. I think they could probably charge more than that. I think people will be willing to pay that, and if they can get the throughput up, this is going to be a guaranteed money earner. Hopefully that increases very slightly, because I think in today's current climate, with the way inflation is moving, $5 really isn't that much money. So it's an exciting project. It's got a great use case. It's essentially alleviating congestion in this local area, taking people to the local beach. A lot of people are using the roads in and around this area. It's creating a lot of congestion. It's annoying a lot of people who live in this area, because they essentially are stuck in traffic if they want to kind of drive anywhere. So by taking a lot of cars off the road, it's going to make the lives of everyone in the area a lot better, even if they're not using the beach. It'll also make things better for people who want to go to the beach, because they'll be able to get there much quicker. So here is the route here. So you'd hope that they'd be able to do this journey in under 2.5 minutes, maybe just slightly under 3 minutes. In terms of the endpoints, it's difficult to say where they're going to build the stations. There's a few little concerns that I can see that I'm going to talk about in a short while. But whether they build the stations up in this direction or down here, or they just have them along the route, I'm very doubtful that they could build anything in this kind of area here. So, you know, you're probably more looking around here and maybe over here as well. So we don't have that information. That information will hopefully come out fairly soon. People who are interested in this particular space are searching for that information. I'm obviously intrigued to find out. If you do have any information as to where stations are going to be, where you think there's a good place to build a station, or where you think that they shouldn't build a station, probably this area here, then just let me know in the comments below. So it looks like it'll be in this area where it'll terminate, but whether it'll terminate at this end or this end, it is, you know, it's at this stage it's anyone's guess. But it's a tight area. It's fairly congested in this area in terms of buildings. There's not a lot of unused land or old buildings that potentially could get torn down. So the kind of options that are there for the Boring Company in terms of having the machines launch from a particular area are quite limited. Here's a more zoomed in version of this map. This is Las Olas Boulevard, this road here. I don't know what's going to happen at this end here. I don't know if it's going to come up here. There's a performance arts centre here. Maybe they could use that. I don't know if it's going to go up or down the beach. You know, along this route here, there are lots of small businesses, bars, clubs, restaurants, that kind of thing. So it's not really an ideal place to be launching TBMs along here. So it's going to be difficult. And then the next question would be where you're going to put your stations, because there's not really the space there. Another concern is this bridge here. So as you can see, the span of this bridge is quite considerable. It's sat on piles. Those piles are going to be very deep, reinforced concrete piles, probably 100 foot, if not more. So ultimately what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going around and then going down like this. So if you've got a dual bore system, you'd probably be going like this. This here area here, obviously there's a lot of canals. That means that the water in here is going to be absolutely soaked with water, very high water table. The ingress of water is going to be a constant issue. Whether they kind of stick with the current machine they have now, or they're going to go to a slurry shield machine, An EPB machine might not work quite as well in this area as a Slurry Shield machine, but that's a question for another day, as it were. I'm not entirely sure where it's going to terminate, if I'm frank and honest. I don't know the area well enough to make that kind of conclusion. We will find out in the plans that surface hopefully in the next sort of 4 to 5 months, if not earlier. So what assumptions have I made in regards to this project? First of all, I like the project. I think it has a great use case. I think it's the perfect size, around just under 6 miles of tunnel. I think that's a good kind of step up from the project in Las Vegas, which was 1.62 miles, or 1.64 miles. So they're essentially going up quite a bit on that particular project. So this one should be a good little challenge for them, but nothing too big, too serious that might potentially get out of control. So I'm hopeful, I'm very, very hopeful on this one, that this project will utilize 2 proof-of-work TBMs. I'm fairly confident it will be a proof-of-work TBM that ends up building this if they start sort of around, I don't know, maybe February, March time of next year. Who knows how long it's going to take them to get going. But let's say they start around this time next year. I would be hopeful that they have 2 proof-of-work TBMs. They'd be able to start at the same time. So you're building both tunnels concurrently. Doing this project with 1 proof-of-work TBM is absolutely crackers, and they should not do that. They should use 2 TBMs. They could do the work concurrently and finish it much quicker. If they intend to use porpoising on this job as well, this should be a very simple job. Really, they're just building stations at either end, and there's not really much along the way. There might be the odd kind of station, something like this, but you can build that after the tunnels have gone through a particular area. But again, we just don't know. We don't have the plans, so we're just waiting for that one. The Boring Company will fund the vast majority of this project. I'm hopeful this is a self-funded project. I'm hopeful that the local governor will be able to access some funds and get involved, but really want the vast majority of the money for this project to come from the Boring Company. That way they can dictate the terms, and also they can get a lion's share of the revenue of any kind of furs that they do kind of collect. So the $5 fur, which hopefully will go up slightly over time, will be split between the Boring Company and the state. I think it should be split 80-20. I think that gives the state lots of incentive if they're only putting in 10% of the money, but they're getting 20% of the revenue. It'll encourage them then to consider more projects after this one on similar terms. With 80% of that fur, the Boring Company can easily make profits with autonomous electric vehicles because they've not got drivers, and the cost of electricity are going to be fairly low. So all in all, every party, so the Boring Company, the state, and passengers as well, who get a nice, reasonable fare, everyone, is happy with the kind of arrangement, as it were. So I'm betting on that being the case. Maybe it's 70-30. Maybe it's 90-10, maybe it's 95-5, who knows. Whatever it is, I'd like to see the state, taking a bit of a cut there. That encourages them to approve more projects because that means they're getting more revenue. They're also alleviating congestion, and everyone benefits. So initially, I think it will operate with a 100-strong fleet of Tesla vehicles. I think we're way off from the autonomous electric vehicle, the Tesla AEV coming along, and I think they're still going to be using Tesla vehicles at that point, but that doesn't mean that this system is going to have a low throughput, because you could just essentially use more vehicles. Maybe you could modify some of the Tesla Model X's so that you can get more passengers in them, but I would hope that later they incorporate a 12-seater AEV and the plaid powertrain. I think the plaid powertrain is very important. it's a big improvement on the previous ludicrous kind of setup. I think that they need to be doing 0 to 60 miles per hour at a fairly decent speed, but most importantly, going from say 40 miles per hour to 120 miles per hour, that needs to be ultra fast, possibly under 10 seconds, and I think that's possible with the plaid powertrain. I think the system's top speed will be limited to 90 miles per hour. The unfortunate situation is that regulators are going to put pressure on the Boring Company and the local government to kind of keep the speeds lower than they would want them. But I think over time, as the system proves itself as being very, very safe, they'll increase that to 100 miles per hour, maybe 115, 120 miles per hour. And 90 miles per hour to begin with on day one is absolutely fine. I'm not too worried about that one. Okay. How does the Boring Company guarantee success? So, it's early days for the Boring Company. They've essentially completed essentially three projects if you include the test tunnels at Adelanto. But they've completed the Hawthorne test tunnel and they completed the Las Vegas Loop, all of which have been incredible successes. They need to continue to drive the cost down of a mile of tunnel constructed by 1 TBM. So we're looking at around $6 million per TBM mile. I think it will go down below around $4.7 million per mile. Even at $6 million per mile, this scheme still makes a lot of sense. But I think there are definitely improvements to be made on that one and it can go below that. With Proof Rock, that's very much possible. And hopefully they have some kind of dream team, as it were, of young engineers who are going to be super enthusiastic and willing to learn the hard yards on the job, as it were. And that's what they need to do. They need to have a good TBM that they've hopefully proven out at Resorts World and the Wynn Encore Casino, and then they can bring that into Florida. It will need to be modified though, because the ground conditions are completely opposite in a way. Complete an extensive route survey. So the issue that we keep hearing about Florida is very, very high water table. The ground, the initial sort of 10 to 15 foot of ground is absolute garbage, and then below that you have extensive layers of limestone of varying hardness. Ultimately, you want to determine how things are lined up for your route, because that will help you design the cut ahead of the TBM, and also maybe make some adjustments to the actual route that you use. Of course, there may be caverns in the limestone that you need to be aware of. They could be the size of a football. They could be the size of a small family house. So you need to be aware of what you're going through and make preparations. Ultimately, if you can find problems in advance, you can correct them before the TBM arrives, and they should spend good money on an extensive route survey. Ultimately, any kind of problems with this project that result in significant delays could potentially crush the Boring Company, lead to its bankruptcy. So they need to essentially be very cautious and make sure that the extensive route surveys cover every single square metre of that route, and they know what they're going to encounter. Ensure autonomous running from day one. Obviously, the Las Vegas Loop, which launched during a pandemic, was not able to ensure autonomous running. However, big progress has been made over the last year or so, and I'm fairly confident that autonomous Teslas will be on the roads fairly soon, and these should easily be able to run through tunnels, especially if it's just one straight line with a few stops along the way. So we're hopeful that this will happen, and it needs to happen, as that will guarantee success. Pre-build the perfect team. So one of the core reasons that Tesla and SpaceX have been so successful is that Elon Musk has been able to motivate his team, establish the best talent, and also give people the room to grow and kind of perfect their talent. in a workspace that encourages people to act as individuals and to innovate and to take charge of particular elements of a project and to work as one harmonious team. So I'm hopeful that this is the beginning of a really good Boring Company team. They are advertising for jobs in Fort Lauderdale. This is quite an interesting job description. Reminds me of a few of the things that I used to do back in the day, ironically. Not all of it, but some of it. Especially this one here. Way back in the day, I used to do subcontractor scope of works. So that was interesting. So, so hopefully they need to build a perfect team. Ultimately, they are moving to Florida with essentially only a few members of staff. That is not a good place to start off. However, if they can build a good team, draw on experience, if they need to pay big money, they need to pay big money to get the best people, because ultimately any kind of failure, any kind of as it were, broken chains will ultimately bring down the company. So if you've got mediocre people working for the company, then ultimately on a project like this, where there's a lot of pressures and strains, that chain will break, and then you'll ultimately have to bear the consequences of that. So they need to make sure they employ the best people. They need to bring people for a lot from Tesla and from SpaceX, and then bring them into this company, and hopefully that will ultimately leave with the combination of Proof Rock and Steve Davis's leadership. That will hopefully lead to a very successful conclusion to this particular project. Okay, well, I hope you like that. There's not as much information as I would like on this particular project, the Las Olas Loop, but as more information comes in, I will talk about it more. And also, I've updated the spreadsheet for the quarterly report, which hopefully I'll be doing the next two to 3 weeks. If you would like to follow me on social media, please do so. Twitter, Discord, and also please consider supporting me on Patreon for just $2. Every little helps. Thank you so much for everyone who's been supporting me recently. I'm looking to make some very, very serious upgrades to my setup here. So ultimately I have my own studio here now, which is working out quite nicely. And we're going to probably add a new camera at some point, and maybe a few other things as well. So thank you so much for all these wonderful, wonderful people who have supported me over the years and continue to support the channel. This means a hell of a lot to me and helps me grow the channel, hopefully into something much, much better in the future. Okay, guys, well, thanks again for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as more information comes to me, I will pass it on to you. So, remember, guys, don't be boring, and I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.